everyone, and welcome to episode 25 of Sooner Girl Sports Pod. And this week's episode is with the head coach of OU Track and Field and Cross Country, James Thomas. James recently completed his second season leading the Sooners, and he guided the program to historic national and conference success. His key achievements have been leading the OU women's team to a program best fourth place finish at the 2025 NCAA Indoor Championships, coached the men's team to a sixth place finish at the 2025 NCAA Outdoor Championships in Eugene, Oregon. First time in school history that both the men's and women's teams finished in the top 15 at both indoor and outdoor nationals in the same season. In Oklahoma's inaugural season in the SEC, they had 4 national champions, 27 All-Americans, 8 SEC champions, 19 school records, and he was named the 2020 Women's Indoor and Men's Outdoor Region Head Coach of the Year. He became a Sooner fan not until the day that he was hired, but ever since then he has definitely proven his worth and his Sooner DNA. He was hired in December of 2024. His favorite memory is seeing the women's team raise their very first NCAA indoor trophy last fall. You can find him on Twitter/X and Instagram, and I will link all of his handles in the show notes, as well as tag him on social media in the clips throughout the week. So I hope that you enjoy this awesome conversation with Coach James Thomas.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me today, because I know you're a busy fellow, and something tells me too you're probably a pretty humble guy and you don't like recognition, but I saw a pretty big announcement about you, and Coach Langley announced just a little bit ago.
I'm kind of definitely in that category of a humble guy. Only reason I really love those kind of awards because it means that your athletes did a really good job. And
Absolutely.
They really did something exceptional. It's a way we get to highlight them, even if it's written in the bio, written in the press. It's really about something that they did. So
yes.
That's the real reason I probably accept them and got the little trophies behind all that kind of fun stuff, because it's really just a memory and acknowledgement of what they've done to kind of put this program on the map.
That's so true. And also yesterday, I believe it was, I saw the announcement for Ralford and Pippa, and they were Athlete of the Year. I don't want to get the title wrong, but Athlete of the Year for male and female for the national field. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so Pippi and Ralford, they both shared the regional award, and then the one award they do for field event, they both got the male and female of our region, and then
that's
Ralford
so cool.
got the actual national award. I think that's the first one in the program's history, if I'm not mistaken, but really good deal.
I think I saw that. That's awesome. Well, I didn't realize that you had only been in Norman for a couple of seasons, and so you and your crew have accomplished a lot in that short time that you've been there. And I have to admit, though, I'm pretty new to following track and field, probably not much longer after you arrived. I started really trying to follow volleyball, tennis, soccer, those sports that don't often get a lot of recognition. And then, of course, I just started my podcast in January, so I'm still fairly new with this as well. But I have enjoyed getting to know coaches like yourself and athletes and the programs that often get overlooked. But so I know myself and many others are recent followers, so to speak, of a program like yours. But holy smokes, like, you have accomplished a lot. Like you said, you think Ralford's award was the first in program history. There's been several things that your teams have accomplished, your coaches have accomplished, best in program history. I've seen that on a lot of categories. So that's really an accomplishment for you.
To the staff and the team, man, they've really stepped up this year, and they've taken this little SEC transition personal.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, everything means more in the SEC, and I definitely think we've all seen that this past season. But you guys took 15 athletes to Eugene?
Yeah, we took 15. We took 8 women and 7 men, and they did an incredible job. We always go to those meets, and we left one of our national runner-up and one of our most elite pole vaulters. She didn't get out the region meet. It was one of those kind of random things that don't happen very often. But we were a few bodies shy, probably on the women's side, from being in a similar position indoors. But they stepped up and did a great job just to exceed that. And our men, taking 7 and scoring 5 and getting 30.5 points and getting 6th place in the country. They really, and coming home with 2 national champions and a runner-up is you hope to get that in a couple seasons, and they knocked it out in 1 championship.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I haven't been super familiar with track and field in the past, but I actually watched part of the national championship meet. It was on ESPN Plus maybe, or some sort of ESPN network.
Mm-hmm.
But I turned it on a couple of times and was able to watch some of the triple jump and the high jump and a bunch of athletes from just across the nation. And it was really cool to see the athletes there that were represented, not just for OU, but across. But to think that we had 15 athletes there was pretty impressive to me. I don't know what the normal is, but I was very proud of the representation that we had. And it was really cool to see it televised where it was available nationally. That was really neat.
Yeah, no, it's a fun meeting. And Eugene, Oregon is kind of the mecca when it comes to just a big stadium. And they've held world championships there. They're really kind of building that up as, and they call it Track Town for a reason, but that's where all of our championships are held every year now from probably here on out, kind of like these other sports have taken on kind of permanent locations. It looks like Eugene, Oregon is becoming ours. And so when you get a good group of people out there, when you have to get a charter bus to take your team and your support staff around, you feel like you did a pretty good job. And we definitely needed that. And it was good to have some support and kind of that same feel of a team when you go to a championship like that, when it can feel like it's just a collection of a few individuals.
Absolutely. So you mentioned to me the other day that you guys have, what do you have coming up in July?
This whole month and next month is a lot of different national championships. So the USA Championships is until the end of July. We're going to go to that with about 8 or 9 athletes. A lot of the athletes on our program, some seniors, some returning. And then we have people kind of stretching out now. I head out Thursday for the Jamaican trials. We have Ralford and we have one of our former athletes, Nikolai Williams, who is an All-American for his indoor. He'll be competing for Jamaica out there trying to get on the World Championship.
That's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned someone that didn't make it past regionals. I think, were you talking about Olivia?
Olivia, yeah.
Okay, and I saw that she got invited to participate on a national level.
No, she gets an opportunity. It's kind of a unique street vault that she gets to go do, where she gets to go against some of the other pros and elite level vaulters, and they get to go out there and just kind of put that sport and that event on a display that most people don't get to see it. And if you haven't seen a pole vault competition and, face to face, it's unique because every time somebody does something, it looks like it can be catastrophic. Everybody loves sports, and they love steeplechase because a barrier you can fall. They love NASCAR because they can be wrecked. They always like the possibility of that. And if you watch enough pole vault competitions, you'll see your fair share of some really close calls. So it's a fun event, and she's one of the best in the world at doing it.
That's cool. I'm excited that she's getting to do that since she wasn't able to make it to Eugene. Like I said, I am fairly new to following, but I recognized her name as a prominent name that's recognized across the program. So I'm sure it was a huge letdown for her to not make it past there. And I hate that for her. But I'm glad that she's getting to do this. I know it doesn't take the place, but it's maybe a little consolation. So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so back up a little bit. So when you came to OU in December of 04 or 24, you said, where did you come from before that?
I was at the University of Georgia. So I was there for 2 years, and that's we had a strong program. They just won a national title this year. We were runner up and third place a couple times when I was over there, but I was there and I spent 2 years there working under Coach Carol Smith Gilbert, and she was an incredible mentor leader for me and helped me kind of position myself when I had this opportunity. But spent my longest stint at Texas Tech right before then. And that's when we kind of built that program up and did a similar type of thing. Won a championship at a place a lot of people thought you couldn't win one in track and field. And been able to kind of take that and grow. And so that was my longest kind of experience in one place. And then I was at Kentucky in the SEC as well for 6 years prior to that. And TCU, if you back up 2 more years, and I started at my alma mater, Sam Houston State, where I finished up there and had my first coaching job in track and field there.
Cool. So you were probably a track and field athlete, of course. So what was your event?
It was weird. I was unique. I was a basketball and track athlete for my first 4 years. And then my first 3 years. And then after I finished playing basketball, I decided to dedicate it strictly to track. And so I started out as just a jumper, long jumper, triple jumper, high jumper. I did all the jumping events. And then when I had a little time to actually focus on the combined events in the decathlon, I took that on and I just got to focus on it through the fall and through the spring and ended up getting really strong in that event and then found an event called the javelin because I was an ex-quarterback and had a pretty good
Yeah.
arm. And so I ended up taking on the javelin, went to Olympic trials in that, and had an opportunity to kind of throw. Still have the Sam Houston State school record. Hope somebody breaks it soon.
Well, congrats to you for holding that. That's really neat. So I have been very intrigued always, but especially recently by following more closely the girls that throw the javelin and the discus, and those girls are strong. I mean, I think it's not to be sexist or whatever, but for a male to do it, I don't, it's still really awesome, but you're like, oh, okay. But to see a girl do it, I'm just like, holy smokes. And some of these girls, pardon my French, they kind of look like they'd kick your ass.
Oh, they absolutely could.
Yeah. And so I have enjoyed watching them. I know Paige Lowe is a name I recognize. I have really enjoyed watching them, and it's just incredible to me. That's something that is not typical for a girl to do, so to speak. And I think that's why I was drawn to it.
Yeah. No, Paige Lowe. It was Cassie Gallagher. She's one of our senior leaders.
Yes,
we have one
Cassie.
of our youngsters, and Kennedy Clark, who is
yes.
nationals as well.
Yes.
And I'm telling you right now, they don't just look at if you go in the weight room, and track strong is a little bit different because I played football and I knew how it was to get kind of big, strong, and lift a lot of weight. But I mean, those women are doing numbers that are unbelievable. Hang cleaning over 250, 270 pounds.
Wow.
They're squatting 500 plus pounds, almost
That's awesome.
Getting close to 600 pounds. So they're extremely strong, extremely explosive. And with Coach Neno and that throws group, what he's done with them all and how much time he pours into it, and Matt, our strength coach, who actually does a lot of work with them as well, man. You would, I think people would be absolutely floored and shocked to see the kind of weight they move in a weight room.
You're probably exactly right because, like I said, you can tell that they're strong, but I think that we don't realize how strong they actually are. So that's really cool. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your coaching staff, because I know there's a couple of names that people recognize, like Gerald, but I know there's several others involved as well. So tell me a little bit about them. And I don't know, did they all come with you, or were some of them already here?
One of my best hires probably at Oklahoma was keeping some of the people that were already on the staff. One thing I'm big on is relationships. And so when I came in here, you obviously evaluate a program, see what direction you want to go. But as I started talking to some of the athletes, and I've known these coaches way before coming here as well, so I knew the kind of work that they've done. So keeping Austin Davis in the horizontal jumps, and Gerald Langley in the combined events and pole vault, and Andrew Neno in the throws was our key focus right there. And then we also had Jay Weaver, who was already on staff as well in certain capacities between ops, help, and distance. And he took over when I got here. He was completely over the distance program. So I just elevated his position and kind of made it a co-head coach between the men and women.
Oh, cool.
And so we added Coach Anna, who's here working with our distance runners. We added her to the mix. And so she took over all the women's distance events. And I added one of the former Sooners, two-time national champion here. So has a big old picture outside of my window. I tell him I need to get somebody to cover him up. Here we're the new national champion. But Mookie Salam, he's my sprint coach here.
Oh,
and then brought in Juanita Sanchez, who started off as one of my volunteer coaches at Texas Tech. And then I realized she was going to be really, really good in the ops world. And so she's taken over, been like the quarterback for our program, helps us kind of get everything we need to get organized, and doesn't necessarily have a coaching role, but plays a major part in that. And then we also have Nima, who's a grad assistant. She's originally from Kenya, ran at Washington State. And so she's helping us here as we try and really elevate this distance program as well.
Okay. Yeah, Juanita, I recognize her name. I've seen her on Instagram. So yeah, she's definitely out there doing her thing for sure. So, okay, you said something about yesterday you had some official visits and things like that. So the track season, I know you have indoor and outdoor. So it's pretty much like a year-long thing, because like you said, it runs up till June, and then you have all of the national trials and stuff and everything else in July, and then you're trying to do visits. So it seems like it never stops.
Well, I'll give you the perfect example, because this is a calendar year that it happened once every 2 or 3 years. We'll be finishing our USA championships and doing our world championships, but we'd already had our third cross-country meet of the fall. So we start cross-country at the end of August, and we go all the way into November. And then we got about a month gap, and then we start our first December meet. Sometimes we do a short December meet, and then we go from January once again all the way to the end of the summer. So for a lot of our events, especially like some of the elite distance coaches and people that are going to be coaching, we have Jay, who's going to probably be heading to Kenya for one of our athletes that made the U20 championships. And so we're going to be going nonstop. So as soon as he gets back, he's probably going to have some freshmen here like, what do I do? Where do I stay?
Wow.
It's pretty much go time. So yeah, it's a year round
Wow.
sport. We cover 6 sports between indoor, outdoor, and cross country, men and women's
Mm-hmm.
side. So a lot of people don't realize it may seem like it's just track and field, but in the big scheme of things, we actually represent 6 sports in the NCAA.
Yes. That is crazy to think about. I mean, I know pretty much any sport, especially collegiate level, is year long, so to speak, in some capacity. But it really does sound like yours is to the next level. Like it really does never stop. So wow, that is incredible. Okay, so you said cross country starts in August and runs through November. Okay, so then like give me a timetable of through the year, because I know a lot of people don't know.
And they'll have about 4 or 5 meets throughout the year. And our system's a little complicated to understand when it comes to kind of point scoring, ranking scoring. But bottom line, they take a collective group to the region meet, which is everybody right now. They all go to the region meet after they go to conference. And then the select amount of teams are automatic bids to the final championship site. And then they have some at-large bids that go with them. So that goes all the way through November to our final national championship. That does change courses in different places and do some different things at times, but typically kind of Wisconsin and kind of the similar path. But then we have a short break before we start indoor season. And a lot of schools do big meets about the second weekend in December. We don't do them very often, but we'll do one probably at home this year. Just kind of maybe a field event-based meet. We'll change some things up and kind of bring a different little energy and atmosphere to it. But then as soon as we get back, the minute we get back from the holidays, January, that second weekend in January, sometimes third weekend, there's pretty much a meet every single weekend until we get the postseason at the end of May, and it goes every other weekend from there. From a conference to a regional to a national, then a little time, then everybody gets ready for their national championships for their countries.
Gosh,
I'm blessed and privileged to work with a bunch of people that want to compete at a high level. So most of the kids we have on our team internationally or domestically, they're trying to prep to get to the highest stage, which is those World Championship, Olympic Games, and representing their team, their country in the summer. And so we really try and help them achieve those kind of goals. Yeah, and that'll go all the way through, depending on when the championship is, depending on if it's held in more of a hotter region or a little bit more of a cooler region. It's a little bit earlier, but if they're hotter region, we kind of move to their winter months so we can get 70 to 80 degrees.
True. That's much better.
Yeah, much better.
Well, I recently spoke with a tennis player who's from Africa, and I was telling him, I met him at a meet earlier this spring, and I was telling him that I have been so amazed at the representation from around the globe, not only in tennis, but I've seen it with soccer. I've noticed it especially with track and field and some volleyball, depending, but mainly tennis and track and field have so many athletes from other countries. And Bruno Naveen is who I spoke with, and he was telling me how important it is to get the fans to come out. And I know that tennis isn't necessarily something that people normally go watch. Track and field isn't something that people necessarily usually go watch. But these people that are athletes that are coming from other countries, they don't have any family here. And it's not possible for their family and friends to come and see them. And so, like Bruno was saying, we love it when any fan will come and support us, because to look up and see them supporting us in the stands or wherever, it truly means a lot, because they don't have anybody else. So I'm sure that your athletes would say the same. Do you guys normally have a lot of spectators for the meets, or how does that kind of work?
We do pretty well. I think the unique part about our sport is any given meet can have about 1,000 athletes. Even if somebody has a friend, a cousin, a teammate, or somebody around, we can typically make especially our indoor facility, max capacity. And it's a fun energy. We bring a DJ in there. We have loud music. All our officials keep playing that. I apologize. We're going to keep playing really loud music and making it fun.
You should.
For the athletes. But no, I think our sport does pretty well because our numbers are so high. And if you get, even if it's not your family, somebody's family is going to be there.
That makes sense.
And just the energy that we have with almost close to 75 to 85 people competing at one time, that means you have teammates that bring a certain level of camaraderie and energy that's unmatched. It's surprisingly, most track meets, especially during the regular season, especially if you come to one here in Norman, you're going to see definitely a high energy atmosphere.
That's awesome. Okay, well, obviously I've never been to one, but I need to add that to my list of many things to experience for the first time. So I will definitely add that to my list, because that sounds awesome.
We normally a track meet can last, and that's why people probably steer clear of them. They can start 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. They go all day, but anytime I run a home meet here, I try and condense it to a really short schedule. We have kind of an open section earlier with a lot of all comers and a lot of teams. And then we have a small condensed window that typically goes from about 5 to 8 or something like that, maybe 5 to 7:30. Try and get everything done in a condensed amount of time. So if you want to go cheer on some Sooners, you don't have to be there all day, all night to do it.
Awesome.
You can come right after work and hang out and come watch us.
That's cool. Okay, that's good to know. I will add that to my list. Like I said, I went to a tennis match this past spring where I met Bruno, and it was my first time to ever go to men's tennis. I later went to a women's tennis match. I went to soccer for the first time last fall. So I have a couple of new things on my agenda coming up this next school year, so I'm definitely going to have to add a track meet on there because I have never been to one. I have no idea what to expect. So at least I know it'll be a good time. Yeah, I'd love to come.
We got a cool tennis story with our track and field program. We were actually in Fort Worth when OU was playing TCU in the tournament.
Okay,
so we got done with our meet and we rolled all of our athletes. So we're about 85, 90 deep, and we went out there and just made a whole bunch of noise, pissed off a lot of frogs.
Awesome.
But we had a really good time with it. They ended up not winning it, but it was still fun to see the energy that they bring, even without any fans there. They're gonna go crazy. It's fun. We need to steal some of their chants.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you guys did that because that was a huge meet for them, and unfortunately they didn't win. But yeah, I'm sure it meant a lot to them to have you guys there. That's really cool. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to experience the new sports that people don't normally go to. And that's what I've been trying to tell everybody too. Soccer last year, I don't know anything about soccer. I'm trying to learn. Attended my first meet, and I just talked to Coach Matt Mott, and he'll be on my podcast this week. And so again, just learning about the game and the players and just the whole aspect of it. And then tennis, Bruno, his episode will be in a couple of weeks, and just getting people out, because I always tell them, if you go out and just experience it and start following people on social media, you get attached to the athletes. You recognize their names, you recognize the coaches, and you kind of start getting familiar with what they're doing so that when you do go, you're not just like, okay, I'm here and I don't really know what's going on. So I feel like that's what I've been trying to do for myself, but I'm also trying to tell other people to do it too, because it really does help. And that's the good thing about social media. I know there's a lot of pros and cons, but I try to focus on the good part. And that is, for one, getting to know your coaches and athletes and your sports in general, but also just connecting. And like, I started following you and Coach Langley and a lot of other coaches and athletes, and like Bruno, like he follows me, like we talk sometimes on social media, and it's cool to see those athletes, and they, that they appreciate when you come out and support them. And like, I saw Bruno at the meet and he came and talked to me, and it's just really cool to have those connections. So I hope to continue to grow that, not just for myself, but just in general, because a lot of people don't think, oh, a track meet, they don't need anybody there, but they do. Yeah. So.
And it's awesome because OU, obviously, Norman has it's unique as a college town and how they support all the sports. And so,
for sure,
I've learned a lot through social media. And even though I've only been here a year and a half or whatever it's been, you just feel like you're completely tied into the brand. You're tied into the momentum.
Absolutely.
You like everything about Oklahoma now. I'm even a OKC fan. I've never cheered for OKC. I'm all in now. I'm watching everything. I like almost everything about Oklahoma, but another school I can't talk about. No, I'm just joking. No, but it's a fun time just to see a lot of success. And I'm in a hallway right here. I'm still in this office area with national championship coach after national championship coach, and you get to see their work, what they put into it, but then you also get to know their staff, and you get to know their athletes who walk down your hall all the time, and you get to go in some of the main spaces, which OU does an incredible job of. A lot of shared facilities, there's a lot of shared spaces. And so we see each other a lot. And so I really appreciate that about the program, because it makes you want to cheer for them. It makes you want to support them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm a big football fan. That's been my thing my whole life is, I know and love football and have watched it for years. But like I said, that shared camaraderie, I guess, when you go somewhere and you see a fan at an away game or something like that, or you see like your fellow coaches or fellow athletes or whatever, it doesn't matter what sport it is. Like, it brings you joy as a Sooner fan, or, as a part of the Sooner program. And I love it. That's why I have enjoyed expanding my athletic repertoire, so to speak. I'm the furthest thing from an athlete that you'll ever meet. But I do love sports, and I love learning about all kinds of sports that I don't know about. So I actually just talked to a girl who was a cheerleader at OU, and she now drives a race car.
Wow.
Her name is Taylor Reimer. But anyway, I don't know anything about racing. That's not normally my jam. But it was so cool to talk to her, just, as a fellow Sooner, and hear about her journey at OU as a cheerleader and growing up doing dirt racing with her dad. And now here she is racing a car professionally. And that's not something that's typical. But again, those OU ties will connect you to somebody. It's been so cool getting to know her and following her now. I was following a race she was in the other night, and I normally do not care about car racing, but I thought I got to see how Taylor does. So yeah, just being that exposure and being around it is really cool. Okay, so you told me that your favorite Sooner memory was watching the women's team raise their first NCAA Indoor trophy. So tell me about that moment, because that sounds awesome. Of course,
that was a really cool moment, because this is when we're making this transition. Nobody really knows what we're capable of yet, and the one thing that kind of we teach and instill from the beginning, this SEC was going to be challenging. This NCAA is going to be challenging. It's going to find out kind of what you're made of. And I think when they jumped into the SEC meet and finished runner-up, and, they didn't even finish that high in the Big 12 for many years.
Yeah.
And the men go third, and then we go to that meet with, some pretty quality pieces, but then you got Agora, who goes out there and gets a national championship. You got Liv, who goes back and gets a runner-up. You have Jasmine, who goes and doubles in the long and the triple jump event that she never really even did that way. And all of a sudden you start seeing these things start adding up, and this team is in position to do something pretty special. And so for them to do that and them to kind of set the tone, and the one thing I got to tell a couple of those are seniors who won't be returning, just to thank them, because anything that we do from here, anything that we accomplished, even the meet that we had this outdoor season for both genders, is because of what they were able to kind of put on the track then. So that's going to be a lasting memory for me, because as a head coach, that's my first trophy. That's my first opportunity to try and lead a team and a staff in an environment where, you just trust them to do what they do. And I step back and I sit in the stands and I do my little version of what I do. But everybody, I think, just does their job exceptionally well. And I think the athletes did the same. And so it became something that nobody left there surprised. They left there happy, but nobody left there surprised. And that's where you feel awesome. Like it's a place you want to be, and you want to get comfortable in that place. Just almost be the permanent expectation of a program. And I like the fact that they've taken that responsibility. They put this team on their shoulders, said this is our program now. They're starting to wash out all the clutter and the noise and start saying, you know what, we just got to take care of us. And when we can start doing that, it makes it fun for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, it's fun to win, that's for sure. And once you do it, it becomes addicting, and it almost has to become a standard, so to speak, to a degree, because you get so used to it and you're like, I don't ever want to not feel that again. So as a fan, I love it too. So I can only imagine as an athlete, as a coach, that you're just like, okay, this is the new standard now, because we know we can do it. And that means a lot. So, okay. So we talked about some of the athletes that you've had and the names that people recognize. Are there any freshmen that are coming in that we should look out for in the next season?
Well, and the one thing I get bad on these things, because I hate calling out names, because I'm like, I'm gonna forget somebody.
Oh, right. No, I know, I understand.
No, the fun part is I'm really excited about this freshman class. Right now, we're adding about 28 new people.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's going to be a large class, and we had 33 graduates this year.
Okay.
And so I feel like OU and our program, they did their job. We want to make sure people have a great experience. We want to make sure people get their degree. And so to lose that many seniors can be a little bit of a scary, daunting part, but I also know that we also have a ton of returners as well that I think that are ready to take on the leadership role. But this is one of them public pressures that you like to put on even a staff and a team. I want us to have 6 sports. So we didn't have cross country representation at the national championship this year.
Right.
Jaws locked. I want to try and get that cross country representation. We have a couple new incomers. We had 3 incomers mid-year, and that made it tough from the distance side, because they weren't here for cross country season. But now they'll have they have this full indoor outdoor season. They come back next year. It's going to be a pretty heavy international look. Our distance team is kind of carried by some of our elite level Kenyan runners, and we have a couple transfers coming in. So not all Kenyan, some Africa, some we had a Canadian this year, 2 Canadians on the team. So we have a mixture of everything, but at the end of the day, I tell our staff, I don't care what country they come from, where they come from,
right?
They're beings. and elite level athletes,
Absolutely.
we'll make a home for them, and we'll make sure we treat them like family. And we have our indoor track that has, I think, 18 flags up because we currently represent 18 different countries on our team.
That's
And
amazing.
We take a lot of pride in making sure they still feel at home. They still feel like they're treated as well as you can be treated in this environment, and they feel like they're a part of a family. But I'm really excited. We had some freshmen. We have a couple local that are from Oklahoma, and we have a couple that are from close nearby states in Texas and Louisiana, and a little bit of mixture of everything.
Awesome.
But I think at the end of the day, we're still kind of staying true to what we do. And our program has kind of gone a little heavier with field events. And field events is all your jumps, your throws, everything that's not on an oval or a track. We went a little heavier in that because we felt that was our immediate strength. But I don't like anything. Ultimately, we want to build the entire program. I want all our coaches to have success. I want all our event areas to feel like they're having a major contribution to what we're doing to be successful.
Absolutely.
And we got to keep that recruiting trail hot and heavy. We got to add some elite level sprinters. That's the one thing that the SEC showed us immediately.
Yes,
they
play
no games in those events. That level sprinting, it's Olympic level sprinting at every round of an SEC championship.
That's
90%
awesome.
of those people would have the Olympic standard, but they all represent the same country or same couple
right.
countries. You can only take
Makes
three.
sense.
So it's elite and it's fun, but it makes you have to step up. But we're going to keep trying to just kind of do it our way. And we're going to kind of keep playing the game the way we have to play to stay competitive at that level. But I like the way we go in a lot of ways when it comes to field events, because you have to coach that. And that's the one thing. You can't just go sign the best ones. You can't just go get the ones with all the pedigree. At that level, you really still have to develop, and you have to coach them every single attempt. And that's the one thing I feel about our staff. They pour their hearts and souls into coaching these young men and women and
awesome.
trying to get them to those elite levels. So yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a new look. We got to learn a lot of new names and a lot of new mannerisms, a lot of new phobias and strengths and everything else. But that's the fun part of it. But I'm glad we have such an extremely, extremely good core of returners that is going to make this thing hopefully a little more seamless for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, I think you just giving that number of 28 incoming freshmen is a reminder of how many athletes you do deal with. I can't even fathom how you remember all the things you need to remember about each person as it is, which is why you have specialty coaches for all the things. But there's a lot of track and field athletes, and I don't think people realize how many. But if you lose 33 and you bring in 28, and you still have people staying, that's a lot of athletes. So I don't know if I certainly didn't think about how many track and field athletes there actually are that represent our university. So it's a good reminder. A lot of Sooners.
Yes, it's quite a bit. I think this year we had roughly just under 100 on the roster, and all the roster limitations and things like that are happening across all sports. So we'll be 45 and 30, roundabout, kind of what the SEC said. There's going to be a little transition period for that to become absolute law. But no, it's the second highest participatory sport. If you bring in all those, both cross country, indoor and outdoor, it's the largest. So it has more than a football roster when you look at how it breaks down per sport. So it's a lot to manage. But like I said, we have credible people, and then we kind of divvy it up a little bit so nobody's really being overworked and things like that. But it takes a lot of attention, especially as you start working on really, really high skilled technical stuff. It's a lot of one-on-one time.
Absolutely. Well, you've done a fantastic job managing, and the rest of your coaching staff as well, and obviously have some very talented athletes. So I'm excited for what's to come and to continue watching you guys. So is there anything else you want to share or talk about before I let you go?
No, I mean, you covered all. I really, your program caught my eye because it's always nice to see somebody trying to get, and I saw Whitney, who used to work on our grounds. I've seen other people that used to do.
I love her, yes.
Yeah, I get to see a lot of different people, a lot of people that are part of this department, a lot of people that support it. So I really appreciate what you do. And I remember when we first kind of even interacted, I was like, let me know I'm on there. I love it. Our athletes, but more importantly, I love to promote things that promote our sports and just all sports in general. So keep doing that. Keep challenging yourself. I promise you got a personal invitation. If you come to one of our track meets, I'm not going to let you sit in the stands and just be lost and not know what you're looking at. We'll make sure we get you a personal tour guide and come check it out. Matter of fact, you come to the track one day. If you ever want to meet some of these athletes yourself, you got an open invitation.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And I will take you up on that for sure. It's funny you mentioned Whitney. When I spoke with her, I got connected with her through Caitlin Fournier, who does some fan relation for softball and football and women's gymnastics. Also had Caitlin on talking about everything she does. And she just happened to mention the field crew. And I was like, that would be an amazing person to talk to because, again, gets overlooked. And people like Whitney doesn't always want a lot of attention, which is totally fine. But I reached out to her and she was like, this is totally out of my comfort zone, but I'm interested in chatting with you. And she was so kind. But she mentioned track and field. And I said, it's just crazy. I've never thought about somebody's got to take care of that. It's just, you think about football fields and baseball and softball, of course, but you don't think about some of the other stuff that often gets overlooked or that they're doing. And she said, yeah, track and field's one of my main things I do. And so it was really cool to talk to her. And yeah, she's someone that's normally behind the scenes, so to speak. And I think she prefers to stay there most of the time, but I enjoyed chatting with her. So yeah, that was cool. Well, I will definitely
keep pulling them out from behind the scenes. There's a lot of really cool people that play a part in how this whole thing works. It's kind of overworked, underappreciated most of the time. And
absolutely,
I've always enjoyed having those kind of people in my life and in our programs because they really are kind of one of that thankless group. And we have them in our sport as well. In a way, sometimes our sport becomes that in some way, and that's a little chip on our shoulder. True. That's a little edge that we get to keep kind of fighting and having a reason to do this every day. But it's fun, and we definitely feel the support. We feel the love.
Good.
And now it's just our turn to go out there and just continue to keep getting better. But no, I definitely appreciate what you're putting on here and what you continue to grow, and wish you nothing but the best. And like I said, if you ever need access to any of our athletes, man, I'd love to let you connect with them.
I would love that. I will keep that in mind as the year progresses for sure. And again, I thank you because, you being willing to give me part of your time is what keeps me going. And people love hearing about all of the stuff that often gets overlooked. So I do appreciate you giving me your time.
Anytime. So I appreciate you.
I hope that you guys enjoyed that awesome conversation with Coach Thomas. He has been so kind. I've been chatting with him over the last few months since I reached out to him to come onto the podcast. I wanted to wait until the national championship was over so that we could visit about the entire season and then look forward to the next and everything that they have going on. But as you heard, he's a very busy fellow and the season almost never ends for him. So I do appreciate him being so kind and taking the time to come onto the show. And I look forward to getting out to a meet later next season and getting to meet some of the athletes. And so for this week's Sooner Headlines of the Week, in case you have missed it, the SEC Network takeover is taking place in the next couple of weeks, and the date for the OU takeover is on July the 8th. And there will be a detailed schedule that comes out over the next week or so, detailing the programs and the timing of the programs that will be airing. And so I will be sure to share that on social media, as well as talk about it on the podcast next week before our date comes for the network. But Oklahoma capped its inaugural season in the SEC with a 9th place finish in the Division I Learfield Directors Cup, which is the athletics department's second best showing ever. The Directors Cup was developed as a joint effort between the NACDA and USA Today, and honors institutions maintaining a broad-based athletic program, achieving success in many sports, both men's and women's. Points are awarded based on each institution's finish in the NCAA championships. For Division I, there are 19 sports that are counted, and 5 of which must include baseball, men's basketball, women's soccer, and women's volleyball. The next 14 minimum sports scored for each institution, regardless of the gender, are used in the standings. So congratulations to us for achieving that for this season. And for football, at time of recording on Sunday, June the 29th, we are only 62 days until kickoff, only 9 Saturdays until kickoff. So when this podcast drops on Wednesday, July the 2nd, it will be only 59 days until kickoff. It will be here before we know it. We're just a couple of weeks out from SEC Media Day. Oklahoma landed a huge commitment from Colorado O-line Deegan Schmidt this past week, and one of my favorite quotes that he gave was, "Bo Bentley needs his bodyguard," and so I like the sound of that guy. And also we had a big announcement for the all-quarter century team that was announced by ESPN this past weekend. We were the only school with 2 offensive linemen from the same school that made the cut, and it was Trent Williams and Lane Johnson. So how cool of our university to have them represented in that way. And in case you missed it, this past Wednesday, which was 25th, the NBA draft started, and our very own Jeremiah Fears was drafted 7th to the New Orleans Pelicans. Selected Buddy Hield overall, number 6, back in 2016. So apparently New Orleans likes their Oklahoma guards. Hield was later traded to Sacramento during his rookie season, but it is cool that we have had two Sooners in the past drafted by that program. And if you have not seen it yet, his number 0 jersey has come out into their team store. It says Zero Fears. It's pretty awesome. And also for our women's basketball, Coach Jenny is an assistant coach on Team USA for the AmeriCup in Chile, and Reagan Beers is playing with that team as well. She was incredible yesterday in their debut game. She had 22 points, 9 of 12 field goals, 1 of 1 3-pointers. She had 7 rebounds, 3 steals, and 1 block. She was completely dominant in that game yesterday. An incredible showing by Reagan Beers in that. And also for our men's gymnastics, we have had a lot of activity going on with those athletes. Just today, Coach Mark Williams, he was on the show earlier this season. If you missed that episode, you should go back and give it a listen. He is an awesome guy, such a supportive coach, supporting his future, present, and past Sooners in all of their endeavors across the globe. But we have 6 of our 8 U.S. Championship qualifiers are incoming or redshirt freshmen. So it is a bright future for us. Kelton, Alex, and Nick are moving on to the men's qualifier for the U.S. Ignacio Knockers is the new national champion for Spain, and a team silver medal for Arthur Ballon with France, Belgium, and Italy. 2 event leaders with Kelton Christensen, Nick Cruz, plus a 3rd place all-around finish for Alex Dubler in qualifier session 1. It was just a really good day to be a Sooner this past weekend. If you were watching and following those guys, it's just been really incredible. We have some talented guys coming in, and it's just a very exciting time for our program. If you follow Skip Johnson, our head baseball coach, on Twitter, you know that when he gets a recruit, he will tweet out 2 eyeballs and say, "Looky here." Just like Coach Gasso is known for tweeting out, "Go Boomer," when she gets a recruit. That is what Skip does with his eyeballs, and he says, "Looky here." Well, we all had to look here on Saturday as he announced that we got a right-handed pitcher from UCF, Isaac Williams, a great transfer addition to the program. And for softball, the USA Softball All-Star Game was in Oklahoma City this past week. It was supposed to be on Thursday, but because of weather, it got delayed till Friday. I was unable to watch it or attend. I had a prior obligation, but our Sooner girls showed out. There were 6 RBIs between our Sooners on that team. Jada Coleman had 2, Kinsey Hansen had 2, Jossie had 2. It was just an incredible outing for our Sooners. You can go back on the USA Softball social media and catch some clips on that. There were even some shared on the OU softball page as well. But softball is poised to be the next major women's sport. The 2025 College World Series quite literally lived up to its reputation, the greatest show on dirt. This year's Women's College World Series was the most watched World Series on record, which included the deciding game of the series between Texas and Texas Tech, setting a new record as the most watched softball game ever with 2.4 million viewers. So I know, horns down always, it's hard to give a little props to Texas, but for the sport overall, and we have to admit, everyone knows, Patty Gasso is spearheading the sport, the program across the globe, leading Team USA. So us Sooners still have plenty to be proud of. Record-breaking watching the Women's College World Series is only a good thing for the sport overall, and going forward, it's just incredible to be a part of softball. For tennis, our former Sooner Alex Martinez had a current career high ranking and is playing in a Tulsa Futures Tourney champ. And Lily Miyazaki had Wimbledon tryouts this past week, and we have several Sooners on tour in addition to Lily, who graduated in 2018. We had the Wimbledon qualifying draw with Chloe Noel. She's a junior. Eda Mamendova, she's a freshman and representing Turkey. Florencia Uritia in Germany. And congratulations to our incoming freshman, Eda Mamendova, for reaching the doubles final at that event in Turkey. There were back-to-back weeks with finals appearance for her. So as a future Sooner coming in, that's pretty incredible. As we talked about with Coach Thomas during his interview, track and field, Ralford Morlings is a Bowerman semifinalist. He's the first ever in program history. It's the Heisman of track and field, so it's a huge accomplishment for him. And then again, he and Pippi Lotta Enoch our National Field Athletes of the Year. Incredible accomplishments for those athletes and the coaching staff. And as we talked about on the interview as well, Coach James Thomas, Men's Coach of the Year, and Gerald Langley, Women's Assistant Coach of the Year for the Midwest region. Just incredible accomplishments across the board. And for golf, our women's school scoring record for the whole season is 50 years record that we broke this season. There has been no better team for our women's. That was just announced on social media this past week. So props to them. Shout out to Reagan Cheney, who was also on the show back in April. Go back and give her episode a listen. But shout out to that women's team for their accomplishments. And so for my Sooner MVP of the week, which I know I'm not super consistent on doing those, especially here lately as the athletics have been dying down for the summer, but I'm going to give a shout out to Ralford Mullings for all of the accomplishment that he has done this summer, as we just talked about during the headlines and during the interview with Coach Thomas. He's just been an incredible athlete for our university representing, and those guys often get overlooked. So shout out to Ralford Mullings for being my Sooner MVP of the week. So to end the show with this week's fun fact of the week, it is 2 years ago, former OU women's basketball standout Danielle Robinson was chosen for her third straight WNBA All-Star Games. So thank you guys again for your overwhelming support and following on social media, for purchasing merch and listening to the podcast. If you do not currently follow me on social media, please go do that. I'm at Sooner Girl Pod on every platform. You can purchase merch through the link in my bio on all platforms. Please like and follow and subscribe, share with a friend, download your favorite podcast episodes and give me a shout out. You can rate and leave a review on Facebook or any of the podcast apps. And don't forget to subscribe on Substack. You can subscribe for free to get the playbook, which is my monthly newsletter with updates and behind the scenes and all kinds of things that you may miss on social media or some that I don't always share. I've just put out my second edition this past week, so you can find that on my Substack, which is again my link in bio. And you can subscribe to have that and episodes and other big announcements sent straight to your inbox for free. You could also, girls, $5 a month to join the locker room. We have a great time. We have a chat. We have a private Instagram feed. You get a discount on merch. First to know all the inside information, we have our monthly Google Meet online huddles, which I am about to have just here moments after I'm finished recording this. And we just have a great time. So I hope that you'll consider giving that a join. If you want to give it a try before committing, just shoot me a message. So also, if you're a business owner looking to grow your business name, you would like to sponsor the podcast or advertise on the podcast, there are opportunities for that as well. Again, everything is in my link tree, which is my link in bio, or you can shoot me an email on any social media platform or on my email, which is soonergirlsportspod@gmail. So you guys, next week's episode on July 9th is with Toby Rowland, the voice of the Sooners. He is so incredible. I'm extremely grateful that he took the time to come on and visit with me for the show, and you guys will not want to miss next week's episode. So I hope that you all have a great week. Continue to follow our Sooners on social media. Again, give me a follow on Facebook and Instagram stories and Twitter. I give those day-to-day, moment-to-moment reactions and updates on everything across all the sports. So go give me a follow, give me a shout out, and I hope to see you back next Wednesday with the amazing Toby Rowland, and I will see you then when we talk sports.